Hey, it's Vas here from Aussie RC Playground and welcome to another unboxing. Today we're going to be looking at the Mammoth Blitz X1. This is a 1/8 scale 4-wheel drive brushless desert buggy and I picked it up from Banggood. Now I'll have links in the description for you guys to check out so you can have a look at pricing and availability and all that sort of thing. So let's get rid of the box and get straight into it. I'm not going to waste too much time on this one because I kind of want to go through it fairly quickly, as a lot of you may actually already know about this car. First and foremost, let's look at what you get in the box. You get some tools. There's a little spanner here, which I'm assuming is for your 17mm hex nuts. There's also a couple of Allen keys to help you work on the car. There's also an instruction manual, of course. It has all the necessary part numbers and blown up pictures and some tuning options and things like that. There's also a leaflet in here for your remote, because the remote that comes pictured in the manual is not the same one that you get in the box. The remote you get is this one right here. It runs on 4AA's, and you may actually recognize this one because a little while ago, maybe over a year ago now, I unboxed this guy from Hobby King, and you can see they're exactly the same remote. However, the one that you get with the Blitz X1 does not have a screen. It's got just a sticker over where the screen used to be. This one's got a screen on it, so you have a few more options with this one, and it has multi-memory and all that sort of thing. These remotes are actually pretty good. I don't mind the feel of it. It's good, works fine, has a very stumpy sort of antenna on there, and it works fine. Runs on 4AA's. Batteries are not included. You will need to supply those yourself. Alrighty, moving on to the car itself. I'll bring this guy up to the camera, and hopefully the camera will do its job and actually focus in on it so you can have a look. Now that you're looking at it a little bit closer, you may actually recognize this car. If I was to tell you that this is actually the old HPI Apache. Now, HPI discontinued the Apache a couple of years ago now, maybe even longer than that. And I remember Jang from Ultimate RC did a review on the Apache, and although he loved the look of that car, he didn't really like the performance of it very much. So I'm curious to see how the performance of this guy is going to go by comparison to some of the other cars. Now, this is not your standard 1/8 scale brushless buggy. It actually uses a truggy chassis, and it's actually quite an extended truggy chassis because it's longer than the ST4, which I don't have up there at the moment. It's longer than the MT4 G5 that you see back there. It's even longer than the Armour Nero that you see back there as well. In fact, this has the same wheelbase, wheel nut to wheel nut, as my Team Associated rival, which is quite a big truck. So the rival's actually a little bit longer than the Nero as well. And that's how big this guy is. It's very long. It's not your typical type of buggy. That being said, it's not much wider than the buggy either. So we'll see how it goes. There are a couple of things here that this company Mammoth have actually improved on from the HPI Apache. There are a couple of things here that I'm not too happy with as well. So let's take the body off now. I'm going to have to pause here a little bit because it does take a little bit of time to get the body off. There's 5 body clips really, but they're a little bit hard to get to, well, to get off rather. They're pretty easy to get to. They're just hard to get off. So there's one at the front just here. There's one on either side at the back here. So there's one on this side, one on the opposite side, and there's 2 little ones at the back here. So I'll quickly pause and I'll come back with the body off. Right, so the body pins are all out. Now to take the body off, it's very simple. Just unhook it from the body post at the rear here, lift it up from the back, and it comes off in one piece just like so. So the body itself actually feels really good, real nice and thick. The plastics also feel like they're of a good quality plastic. And it's nice and sturdy. I think it's hopefully going to hold up pretty decently. Now I know some of you out there will probably say that, you know, this is a clone and so forth, but I don't think it is. I think this is actually the same HPI vehicle that we saw when HPI used to stock these as the Apache. I think this company has just basically taken over the rights to be able to sell this product because HPI no longer make it. So I think it makes a bit more sense that somebody else has sort of picked it up and decided to make it. And as far as I can tell, this is exactly the same, with a couple of very small minor differences which I'll run you through very quickly. Now I'm going to bring this up to the camera and show you what the chassis looks like. There are some LED light buckets at the front here. LEDs are not included, but I did have a bit of a look, and I think I will be putting some LEDs in here. It doesn't look like it's going to be too hard. You can see the wheels there. Tyres. I'll talk about the tyres in a little bit more in detail. Now this is a very heavy car and it does run on 4S only. The ESC is 100 amps. The motor is a 3670, that's the can size, and it is a 2650 kV. The steering servo doesn't really have any branding on it. I don't have any specs on the steering servo at all. But the receiver box looks as though it's waterproof, or at least water resistant. So you should be able to sort of splash through the odd puddle of water and everything. And the ESC is a rebranded hobby wing, which is tucked away back here underneath this tyre. Now the tyre is real, but it is a fake rim. And what I mean by a fake rim is that it's an exact replica of the ones that you use on the actual car, but it's kind of only on, like it's in place with a little kind of screw. It doesn't actually have a 17mm hex or anything. So just something to keep in mind. You can't really use it, not that you would, but you can't really use this spare tyre. I mean, you can use the tyre, not the wheel. Now, some of the differences between this car and the HPI Apache, from what I could tell. First and foremost, it has aluminium threaded body shocks, and these are proper 1/8 scale big bore shocks. They also don't bottom out before the chassis does. Now, one of the things that Jang from Ultimate RC said was that you know, when he compressed the car, that the car would actually, or the shocks would bottom out before the car did. Now in this case, I can push the car all the way to the table here, and I even have a little bit of play to be able to lift up one of the tyres, so the shocks have a little bit more travel than they did on the HPI Apache. Plus these are aluminium, while the Apache had plastic shocks. Now they do still have, the car still has solid plastic links, front and rear, so you can't adjust toe and you can't adjust camber without, of course, modifying those links or replacing them with you know, adjustable ones. The battery tray is adjustable, just like it was on the HPI Apache. You have an adjustable servo saver up the front here, and it runs on Dean's connectors, which I'm going to be swapping out. But speaking of, even if you wanted to use Dean's, one of the things that I'm not too happy with this car is that one of the plugs is kind of tucked in underneath this wheel, so I can't really pull this out. That's as far out as it comes, and that could be a bit of a problem for your battery if your cable is not long enough. But even just putting it in and taking it out, that creates a little bit of a hassle, so I'm going to have to make it a bit of an extension here and kind of extend the wire out, and hopefully I'll be able to plug in my batteries without any problems, because I don't run Dean's anymore, so I'll be swapping these out anyway, and I'll do my modifications then. Now the car is extremely heavy. It runs a 4mm aluminium chassis, which is something that, it's quite a thick chassis. I mean, sure, it's very long, but why they went with 4mm I'm not entirely sure. Whilst a lot of other RCs out there only have 3. Now 3, I mean, going for 4 is obviously a better thing, but it does weigh the car down a little bit more. Perhaps some aluminium bracing would have been another option that they could have gone for, and just left the chassis at 3mm. I don't know if that would have made a big difference in weight reduction, but that's something that could have definitely been done. The A-arms, both front and rear, are solid all the way through, and they're also capped on the top as well. So for this style of RC, it allows it to sort of, you know, kind of go over some rougher terrain without the A-arms getting caught anywhere. Something also that I noticed with this car is that I have 2 screws here that were not screwed in all the way. Now this is something that obviously I could have screwed down before I did the unboxing, but I did want to show that this is how I got the car. I mean, it's good that the screws are there, I just have to screw them down. Not really a big deal. Now it does have aluminium hinge pin braces on the front and rear of the A-arms, on both front and rear A-arms as well. So this makes it very nice and strong. Sway bars are pre-installed front and rear as well. And it looks like a pretty solid unit. The shock towers are aluminium, they look to be about 4mm thick, both front and rear. Now I think they are pressed, but they're really nicely finished. They're very nicely polished, and they look as though they look machined, but I think they're pressed. That's just my kind of, you know, observation of it. I could be wrong, to be honest with you. They could be machined, which is a really good upgrade. There are 2 adjustable points on the shock towers up the top for you to reposition your shocks. There's 2 adjustment points on your A-arms and on the front, and 3 adjustment points on the A-arms in the rear. So droop screws are also pre-installed front and rear, which of course allows you to kind of lower the chassis if you want to, just by tightening up those droop screws. And suspension doesn't feel too bad. Very dampened, I have to say, because it is such a heavy car, especially when the body goes on and you put your batteries in and everything. They've definitely dampened these shocks quite a bit. The rear kind of feels a little bit undersprung, so I may need to tighten up these shock collars a bit, or maybe even look at alternative springs if I find that the car doesn't have enough rebound. But we'll see how we go. I'm going to run it as it is, and obviously test it out and go from there. Now the tyres themselves is something that I'm not particularly happy with. They have a very flat tread, and they almost look like kind of a semi-street tyre, to be honest with you. So not a big fan of these tyres. But one of the problems that's kind of been transferred over from the HPI Apache is the amount of slop and wobble that you have on these wheels. So in the rear as well, you can see just how wobbly that is. Now every car will have a little bit of slop in the front and rear wheels. That's just a given. But some of them have very minute slop. Some of them, like this one, have excessive. This is what I call excessive. This is not something that I would call acceptable. And no, it's not the wheel nuts. I know some people will probably say, oh, you haven't tightened your wheel nuts. I have checked all this. It's not the wheel nuts. It's just the hubs. The design of the hub or the axles are just a fraction too small for the ball bearings, and you get a little bit of play. And that's something that I don't think you can really overcome unless you do some heavy modifications. Now, the drive shafts are another thing that I'm finding a little bit of a concern. I don't know if they're going to be a problem, but they are a bit of a concern to me. And that is because, quite simply, for such a big and heavy vehicle, I would have thought that these would have been a little bit thicker, a little bit more heavy duty, and they're not. They're actually quite thin. They look to be about maybe 2.5, perhaps even 3 millimeters thick. That's about as much as they, or as thick as they look to me. Hinge pins look to be pretty beefy from what I can tell. But the drive shafts, yeah, they just look a little bit flimsy. That's my only concern. You do have CVDs in the front and standard dog bones in the rear, from as far as I could tell. Yeah, they're just standard dog bones in the rear. I'm 99.9% sure they are. That's pretty much everything that I have to say about this one. The motor mount seems to be pretty kind of standard affair for a 1/8 scale buggy. So you just have your standard Mod 1 pinion gears in there, and it's adjustable via a slider. So you undo the top and rear bolts here, and you can slide the motor in and out. Center diff, of course, front and rear diff. So it does have 3 diffs, just like your standard 1/8 scale vehicles, and it looks decent. I'm hoping it holds up. I mean, I know that Jang kind of complained about the handling characteristics of the Apache. It was very top heavy and it tumbled over a lot. So I don't know if this is going to be the same. The suspension setup on this is a little bit different from what it was on the Apache, so I'm curious to see how it's going to go. I'm not going to run it with Badlands, because Badlands, on a narrow vehicle, Badlands have a lot of side bites. So when you kind of turn any car, really, you're going to get a lot of side bite, and if the car's not balanced correctly, if it's not a low center of gravity car, it's going to want to tumble over. I found that out by running some vehicles with Badlands. For example, my Bushmaster back there, which also has a cage on it, I put Badlands on that and I was flipping the car over all the time. Change tires and have a little bit more of a balance between forward grip and have a little bit of slip when you're cornering, and it becomes a little bit more forgivable and a lot easier to drive. My Armour Senton, which is a short course truck, which has a lot of plastic on it, has a bit of a roll cage in it as well. Running Badlands on that, I didn't enjoy the truck at all. But running different tires, like my AKA City Blocks, truck works beautifully. I get plenty of grip and it doesn't want to tip over as much. And that's, I think, going to be the same story with this car. I'm probably going to have to get different tyres than what's here. Maybe I'll run the city blocks again. I seem to be pretty happy with that. Or maybe I'll try something different for a change and just see how it performs overall. But as far as, you know, what this car has to offer, I'm pretty happy with it. I'm not even going to try and put the cage back on right now because it's a bit of fiddling around. You're going to feed it in front ways, and yeah, it takes a few seconds. It's not as easy as putting a standard Lexan body on this one. I like the car. I like the fact that it's been brought back from the dead because it's one car from a brand like HPI that I never had in the past. And I like the fact that it's become accessible again for the masses. And of course you can go out to Banggood and pick one up, and you know, it's not as expensive as the HPI was. And to me, it looks like it's exactly the same car. You're running Hex hardware all the way through. The plastics feel very nice. The aluminium looks very nice. It looks like a quality product. It doesn't look like an imitation at all. If anything, they've improved on it. And I'm really looking forward to running it and seeing what it can do. So that's my approach to this one. Just something a little different. Something that, yeah, I just want to give it a try and just find out if it's any good. I mean, essentially that's what I do here on the channel, is test a variety of different vehicles and just see what they have to offer compared to the competition. That's pretty much it for this unboxing, guys. Thank you all very much for watching. Don't forget to check out the video description for more information on the car, as well as a link to my Facebook page. If you're new here, please don't forget to subscribe. And before you go, please give the video a like or a thumbs down, depending on you know, whether or not you found this useful information to you. And I will speak to you guys next time.